what's happening, but because of what you've seen on your chairs, I want to talk to you about human trafficking. It's heavy in San Diego. It's a lot. Nah, I'm going to wander. Is that all right? It's really heavy, and that's why my goal for you guys is I want you to understand. Probably it's not going to happen to somebody that's in here, but it could happen with your friends. It could happen to somebody already that you know. So my goal is learn from this. Tell your friends what's happening, because a lot of people don't want to talk about it. I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to somebody and they put their hand in my face because they don't want to know. But the only way you're going to save yourself from this, because it is so bad here in San Diego, is for you to know. It's not for you to be afraid. That's my goal, not my goal. It's not for you to walk out of here miserable and sad. That's not my goal. And you do not have to live like that. You can be educated. You can be aware. You can tell your friends about it so that that doesn't have to happen to you, right? So if you get anything out of this, learn what you need to learn to keep yourself safe. Because in San Diego, there was a study done, it was a few years ago now. It's $810 million underground economy yearly. That means they don't get out in a year. It's happening again the next year and the next year. And typically it takes a girl or a guy. Since I've been doing this, boys are up 50%. When I started, it was 20%. COVID has changed a lot of things. So that's why I want you guys to be aware. And in case I forget, don't anybody leave here if you're afraid or you don't know what to do. Let us pray with you. I mean, don't leave with that kind of a burden on you. You don't need that. And again, it's not my goal to scare you. My goal to educate you so that you know what to do, right? I have been doing this for about 9 years. I have worked with, I was lucky enough to train governmentally. I am friends with the RDA. We have a great human trafficking task force in our area. They work hard at what they do. But just to give you a little bit of an idea, it's so much going on here. They can't always come to your aid when you need it. It could take some time. But I'm here to tell you that you don't have to be involved. You can step out of it and learn. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you, well, let me tell you, I have, like I said, I've trained with the DA. I am officially a speaker for the community committee in San Diego under our chief DA. I've trained with the Department of Justice, and there's a lot going on, and it continues to change. So what was happening 2 years ago is kind of happening today, but it still looks different. So education has to continue. And let me, a little plug, anybody who's interested, anybody wants to learn how to get involved in this, there's plenty of places for you. You can even do stuff at your school, and we can show you how. I think that's on one of the flyers. Excuse me. And I ask you to check out what's on the flyers. There's a flyer specifically about social media, because that's the biggest part of it right now. When I first started, you could go to Parkway Plaza, and I'm sure everybody's heard stories about what happens at Parkway Plaza, and that's typically what it was back then. Not so much anymore. Is it still happening there? Yeah. Do kids get kidnapped? Yeah. I've never been involved in a case like that. Typically, you're lured into it. You think it's your boyfriend, you think it's your girlfriend, nice friend of yours, and you don't really know what's happening. And before you know it, it's too late, and now you're already in. And it takes probably, typically 7 years for someone to recognize and be able to get out, because once you're in, it's very difficult. So my goal is I don't want you guys to be in something for 7 years. Screw up your life forever, right? Doesn't have to happen. So I'm going to do two things today. I'm going to show a video that is an older video, but it's going to show you how a Christian girl got involved and how, like a street girl got involved, not knowing. And then I'm going to ask you what you think. And if you think you'd recognize a pimp that was on the street, all right? One thing I want you to notice, in the girl who's actually telling the story, her name is Brittany. I want you to notice the look on her face when she talks about her trafficker. He was grooming her, just so you can kind of get an idea of the mind-bending stuff that happens. The pimps are really good at what they do. It's manipulation beyond anything you can imagine. And so watch your face. She realized she was trafficked, and she's out. She's actually a speaker for us now, but she still smiles. So check it out and see for yourself. All right, you want to start the video, you guys? So what do you think? Is that what you thought trafficking looked like? Here's your chance, you guys. Ask questions. I'm willing to answer anything you've got. If you're not sure, let's find out. What do you think? Is that what you thought trafficking would look like? Raise your hand if you, okay, how about this? Raise your hand, do you know anybody who's ever been involved in trafficking? Maybe in their family, maybe a girlfriend, some person you know, right? All right. You guys are quiet. I know it's heavy, right? It is heavy, right? But here's your chance to ask questions. Where else are you going to be able to ask questions? And if you don't want to ask a question, but you have one, I have cards in the back. You can take a card, and I can answer your questions then. Just don't leave feeling terrible. I don't want you to do that because I know it is heavy, all right? So what I'm going to do now is a PowerPoint, and it's just for education. I'm going to give you some more specifics. And at the end of the PowerPoint, there's a number for our human trafficking task force. We have a great task force. There's about 14 detectives on it. It's changed a little bit since COVID, but they do a great job. They really do. One of my saddest things is they, could possibly get killed in the situation trying to save someone. They save her, and she's back on the street the next day, because she has been so manipulated by the thinking of this guy, and she thinks it's her boyfriend, and also the other way around thinks it's your girlfriend, that they're back on the street tomorrow. Our California laws are not the best, and so they can go right back after the detective has just, put his life on the line for whoever it was. That's a sad fact. Anybody who likes to be a lawyer or that kind of thing, we want you, because we need to change some of the laws in California because they're not very good. They're not very easy for the girls. Okay, so you want to start the PowerPoint? Well, let me ask you this. Okay, who raised their hand that they know somebody, maybe at school or a family member who's been involved with trafficking? Right? Anybody want to tell a story? I could tell you 100 stories. I don't want to take that long. But it's happening everywhere. 20%, a few years ago, probably before COVID, there was a study done, and out of the 20 schools that were studied, 80% of them had documented trafficking cases that you guys don't hear about, right? But it's at your school. And now, all of the schools, all of the junior highs, all of the high schools have an issue. Most of them, hopefully not our school, right, or charter school, some of them. But no, it's probably at your school. It's you could be sitting next to somebody at church. It's that prevalent out here. That don't think it's not coming towards you, because it is, all right? All right, you want to start the PowerPoint? Next. Okay, this is the legal definition of human trafficking. Any minor used in a commercial sex act. There could be an exchange of a phone, a sandwich, anything. If you're under 18, you could get caught for that, and you'll get turned if you're 18. They are considering that human trafficking. If you're over 18, to have it be human trafficking, she has to be forced, or there's fraud or coercion to have her be considered as a trafficking victim. Okay, next. Here's who they are, right? Your neighbor. I mean, most people think it's a heavy, ugly, hard pimp giant guy, right? Not necessarily. It could be a woman. There's lots of women traffickers now. So it could be your neighbor, and it could be the tatted guy. It could be the handsome guy you just met. Seems fine, just like Brianna, she thought he was fine. There are family members who are trafficking other family members. I did a presentation one time, and I noticed the person's face was not so happy anymore. And she finally realized she was trafficked, and she was even unaware of it. She was human trafficked on the labor side, which is increasing. As the males are increasing, so is the labor trafficking increasing. It could be somebody you work with. He's just a plant there who, if he's got a nice-looking car, lots of money, not that everybody's a trafficker, but you need to question. You need to be thinking about it, right? And when I first started, women were not traffickers. Now that's easy to find that. The girl at your school who loves parties. She's always got the great clothes. She looks great. She's really happy with everybody, and she keeps asking you to the party. That's a red flag. Not that everybody's a trafficker, but if there's enough red flags, that should be a sign to you that you need to look into it. All right, next. This is a sad one. Girls who have been trafficked will now be trafficked. That she will have to be trafficking someone else. I've seen sister and sister. One girl was trafficked, and within a short amount of time, she got her 15-year-old sister also involved. And how she did that, she invited her to a party, and she walked her in the door, closed the door, and they were waiting for her in there at the party. So it's happening everywhere. Could be your friend. The biggest change right now from like the video is it's social media. You guys are online so much now that they're waiting for you. If you say something like, I'm mad at my dad, or I hate my boyfriend, we just broke up last night, something like that, they're watching you then. There's traffickers on there 24/7 looking to see who could I go after next. It isn't always the guy who looks really handsome and all the girls want to be with him. They call him the Romeo. He's definitely out there. But like I said, it could be some scary-looking guy, and he's after you also, right? Let's see, I can't see. Just like it said, his goal is to go after you. His goal is to have you think that he's wonderful. Look at Brianna. Did you guys notice her face? Even after she was trafficked, and Brianna's fine. Today she's a nurse, and she works with us. But even after her experience with this guy, scary as it was, she still had that look of, isn't he fun? When she talked about him, she smiled about it. That's how manipulating they are. If you think trafficker, think manipulator, because they really are. All right, next. This is what they're going to promise. Who doesn't want cash, jewelry, designer things? And he will definitely give you those things. He definitely will. But there's a cost after you've been in for a while. Okay, next. He always says, we're going to get married. It's going to be great. We're going to be in this, white picket fence and beautiful house and the kids and all that. But just right now, let's just do this right now. It's not always going to be like this, but let's just do this right now. And then later on, babe, we're going to be fine. Well, it never happens. Later on, never happens. All right, next. This is what you get. This is what's going to happen in trafficking. Typically in San Diego, a pimp requires about $1,000 a night. And that means she can't come back in the house without that. No sleeping, no food, anything, till you bring your $1,000. And that could be anywhere from, that one's 30. I actually haven't seen 30, but I've seen 10 to 15 a night. What girl wants to do that at a night, right? Okay, next. These are just some pictures I took of some guys off the internet. Now, these are called gorilla pimps, and it's exactly what you think. They'll kill you. I mean, you don't want to be around that. And what happens on the street, they have their own language. And so if the girl is just wandering on the street and she happens to look the pimp in the eye, now she belongs to him. Did she want to be with him? No. But because that's where their language goes, and they have their own set of language and how they speak, she's stuck now. But if you see the tattoos, that's huge. That's how the trafficker, he tags the girl so that all the other pimp knows she belongs to me, so don't mess with her. Right? So anybody who's got a new tattoo, especially a barcode, I once saw a beautiful dollar sign. I mean, it wasn't a cheap dollar sign that somebody did. I remember thinking, I was at Parkway Plaza. I remember thinking, why would you put a dollar sign on your neck? Because I didn't realize, and that's how he's tagged her. So that's one of the signs, definitely. Everybody has a tattoo, right? It's not about tattoos. It's about some tattoos. And if you put all of these things together and you're starting to see there's a difference, you want to notice that. You want to do something about that. You could save somebody's life. Seriously, I've seen girls that were, typically what happens is he's groomed her for quite a while. I've seen weeks, I've seen 2 years of him grooming her, and then that girl was just gone after 2 years. Her parents didn't know where she went. So it's be careful. I just want to say that. This is not something light. This is big in San Diego. A few years ago, like I said, it was $810 million. That's old. It's gone up quite a bit, since then. So trafficking here, and especially in our area, is heavy. It's heavy. So just don't assume it's not happening around you. My hope is once you see the signs, you've learned them, that you'll do something about it. Don't be afraid. And there's a hotline that we'll put at the end of the slideshow. Put that in your phone. And if you think something's happening, but you're not really sure, call it anyway. They are trained to take care of it. You just say, you don't even have to give your name if you want. Give your name if you want to be involved. I have to give my name. But you just tell them, I saw this. It was on this street at this time of day. Looked weird to me. I don't really know for sure. But you might save her life. They know what to go after and what to blow off. So don't ever let that stop you from doing something. All right, next. Like he said, every place that you are, they're there, right? Don't ever assume, if you're at a party, don't assume it's not happening. If you're at Starbucks, my daughter-in-law used to go to Starbucks and sit at Starbucks and just wait. And there was always somebody there that she would talk to. I got in trouble with the human trafficking task force one time because I was a hairdresser, and I was giving her my cards with my telephone number on it. And he goes, "What are you doing?" I was trying to help, right? Don't ever intervene. The pimp is always there, always watching her. She's never alone. If it's not her pimp, it's the next pimp. They've come. This is such a big deal now that the gangs that hated each other, in the past, they're together now because they can make so much money. The average pimp can make here in San Diego probably $45,000 a month, tax-free, right? But may I say, if you're choosing that and you get caught, you're going to go to jail for 25 years. It's just not something to mess with, right? So any place you guys are, they're there, all right? Somebody give me an idea. Do you think you could pick a pimp out in a group? Tell me, if anybody. Raise your hand if you can. What do you think? Come on, you guys. Anybody? Yeah. What is it? Okay, but what would he say to you? What would he look like? Okay, anybody? What was it? Okay, all right, definitely. All of the gangs are involved because they make a huge amount of money. This is a money thing, you guys, so they'll go after anybody. Yeah. Say it again. He'll be very nice, right? Yeah, totally nice. Anybody else? I mean, you guys just heard a whole lot. What do you think? Wearing what? Yeah. I mean, like in the movies, it's got the shirt open and the big gold. They still do that. There was a party at Oceanside, I think it was. Pimp Daddy had the gun in his lap. He had his cash flying around, and the girl, he asked her if she wanted to make $600 for that night, and she thought, okay, maybe that's not bad. She'd already been having sex, and so she went with it. She didn't get to come home, all right? She was lucky enough and bold enough to sneak out, which typically doesn't happen. Anybody else? Could you identify a pimp if you saw one? What would you look for? Come on, you guys, you can do it, right? What would he talk like? Right? What was that? You're smiling. You got something to say, right? Nope. All right. You got a note. All right. All right, you've learned a lot, you guys. Don't blow this stuff off. Is it a lot? Yeah, it is. But go home. I've given you this little online safety guide. Also has at the very bottom of it more. If you go to that website, it's Youth Online. It's about social media. It'll give you a better idea. You can get educated. You can go to a meeting every night, every day in San Diego. We've got so much going on. Yeah.
We got a handful of minutes left, but can you talk about online grooming and kind of what that looks like? Because I expect that will be probably something that is more pervasive.
Yes. Totally. Yeah, totally. That's the very thing that's going on the most right now. The commander of the task force told me that it's actually up 50% because of the online, because everybody's online so much. And if you don't have somebody watching, they're going to talk to you to be your friend. They're going to just start out to be a nice friend to you, and you're thinking it's fine, right? And you'll see on the safety, if you get on the safety thing that I sent, how easily it can happen, and you're totally unaware of it. I've seen girls many times have no idea that's what's happening. I worked with a girl who, stop me if you need to. Oh, I've gone over. All right, let me tell the last story. I worked with a girl. She knew all of the trafficking stuff. I talked about it all the time. She had a daughter who was 15. And we're hairdressers. We were just doing hair. And next thing you know, I hear her mom say something like, what did you just say? We kept her from being trafficked. She was 2 weeks away from being gone. Now, what would happen is the trafficker, let's go on vacation. They've been friends for a while, and they don't come back, right? So it's, again, I don't want you guys to be afraid, but I do want you to be aware. I do want you to figure out more. There's lots of education going on. Just educate yourself so that you can be at the point of, I know what to do if something happens. And John's there, my card's there. On my card is the telephone number for the Human Trafficking Task Force, and you can call that hotline number. Again, you don't have to know for sure, but you could save somebody's life. Okay, let's stop. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to invite the band up. I just want to say, I made mention of that because I get, by the way, that there's a lot of us who feel like, oh, well, that's just like, couldn't be me. Like, that just sounds like a crazy, like, movie that I've seen. But even, like, in our church and among high school students, what we're talking about is not a super, like, crazy or foreign concept. Like, these things go on, and more often the issue will be things online, social media, and like sending nudes over Snapchat or whatever, that people end up getting like blackmailed over and humiliated over. And it very often it happens that way. And so it's easy to feel like, cool, I'm not going to get kidnapped and taken to a different state. No, but like the things that you do online very often end up having really devastating effects when you're just completely unaware of how they can be used and manipulated. So it's just something to be really, really careful about.